What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Climb the Pocket YouTube page. My name is Steve. Find me on Twitter at Steve_CTP, and I'm here with my co-host, as always, Ryan McGinley on Twitter at Bootleg Fantasy. And today, we're sadly not talking about fantasy football, but we're talking NFL football, which is kind of, it's kind of an ease on the body, and it's going through the playoffs in fantasy can be very stressful, especially if you don't make it all the way. Even when you do make it all the way. I won my fantasy championship at 0.5 with Josh Allen in the last game. So my stress was all the way down. But now we get to enjoy some real football, not rooting for players in the other team. You're watching your favorite team, hopefully in the playoffs. And we're going to go through playoff predictions today, the road to Super Bowl. All right? Got a lot of good teams in the playoffs. The AFC is stacked. The NFC is a little underwhelming with the Washington football team in there at a negative, under 500 record and whatnot. We will go down through each of the matchups. And we're going to come through to a consensus Climb the Pocket Super Bowl prediction throughout the playoffs. So, Ryan, what's going on? I'm pretty excited to talk about this today.
Well, Steve, my heart's full again because we took the last week off because it was a mutiny essentially against Week 17. I feel terrible if you had to watch fantasy football games go down into Week 17 because everybody and their mother did not play. It was a pretty brutal slate of games, but now we're talking about the big bucks, the playoffs, everything that everyone's dreamed of getting to, except for the Eagles in Week 17, because they wanted to sit everybody, and that's not this show. We're not going to talk about that this show, but it's good to see the Washington football team get in as the best team in the NFC East. But yeah, you've already touched on it. A little teaser. I think it's going to be an AFC team to win the Super Bowl.
Wow.
We're gonna have to break it down, right?
We will.
We're gonna have to talk about it. But yeah, the NFC seems to be stumbling, except for some 43-year-old quarterback seems to be picking it up.
Yeah, definitely. And that will lead us right into the NFC. The first matchup, the number 4 Washington football team with a 7-9 record in the regular season wins the NFC East. Tampa Bay comes into town to play them. They are the 5th seed. They finished with an 11-5 record. Great record. Not good enough to win the division with the Saints there in their division. But this is going to be an interesting one, man. I'm pretty excited to watch it, especially because Tom Brady and those Bucs have been heating up, man. They're on a 4-game winning streak. That offense seems to be coming alive, especially in the passing game. Hopefully Mike Evans can play. I don't know the complete word on that by the time you're watching this, but he definitely had a pretty nasty hyperextension of his leg in the end zone last game, and it looks like it was going to be a great game for him too. But hey, just pass the torch right to Antonio Brown. Him and Tom Brady are heating up. I'm really excited to watch this one. What are some key things you're going to be looking out for in this game?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it with Evans. We've harped on it all year that the Washington football team, great pass defenders. They really are good, and they're playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Of all the disrespect going towards the Eagles for sitting guys, I feel like just as much disrespect is going towards Washington because they haven't received any type of love for winning the division. I know the NFC East was everyone's joke division that everyone liked to get their memes off, right? It's fine. But just like Joe Judge said, all these guys are playing to win the game. They're playing to put it all on the field, and that's what Washington did, and they were the best team in that division. Mm-hmm. There's a big chip on their shoulder. Chase Young has emerged as one of the best leaders in football. Like I just love listening to that guy talk. He instills confidence in his guys. They're starting to heat up down the stretch. They're 8.5-point dogs at home, according to a FanDuel Sportsbook prediction. They don't sponsor us yet, so that's not a plug. But I really think that 8.5 number is pretty big. I think that Tampa Bay has a lot of guys that have been there in that kind of situation before, obviously with Brady, but you've got Gronk, and their defense is stout. So I don't think it's going to be a blowout. The 8.5's that's kind of big. Personally, I'm probably going to stay away from that game. But if I had to put money, I'd still probably put money on Tampa Bay covering the 8.5.
I mean, they're just playing so well, man. Tom Brady looks poised. He looks confident.
Yeah.
He's got that look, dude. He's got that look. And,
he obviously saw the tweet where I think I tweeted like probably a month ago to the day before Tom Brady decided to be first in passing yards, touchdowns, second in passer rating over the last month. That I thought Tom Brady was looking a little washed because he was looking washed as a quarterback. Granted, he got to play the Falcons twice. That made the numbers look good. But if you let that guy get confident, anything can happen with that team. And Antonio Brown, if you extrapolated all 4 of his starts across 16 games, he would have finished as the wide receiver 2 in PPR formats. Um,
Heating up.
yeah, he's seemingly Antonio Brown still. It's crazy that it took him just a couple weeks to figure it out. If you extrapolate all of his numbers, including games he didn't start, he would have been wide receiver. I believe it was 16 in PPR formats, point 0.5 above Juju Smith-Schuster. So
Wow.
there's a little tidbit for you to take home. But yeah, I think Tampa Bay wins this kind of easily. I love Chase Young being, excited to get to Tom Brady, but we know how Tom Brady plays in the playoffs. The ball's going to be out of his hand in 0.5 seconds.
Yeah, besides watching Chase Young, like you mentioned, I think Tampa Bay will go into Washington and they will win this game. So they're going to go ahead and move on to the divisional round. Moving on to the next game in the NFC, the Los Angeles Rams, the 6th seed, finished with a 10-6 record. Go on the road to Seattle, their divisional rival, play a 12-4 team, which is riding a 4-game win streak right now. And the big question is, are the Rams going to have Goff? If they don't, there's no question Seattle's going to win this game. They need Goff there. They cannot win it with Wolford. That last game against Arizona, where both the backups were playing, was just an uninteresting game. It just was not fun to watch. They're not the same team without Goff, even though Goff hasn't been there completely throughout the year in its top performance. It's just going to be. It's gonna be a good game. It's gonna be probably what we've seen the last couple matchups between Seattle and Los Angeles is a low scoring game, hard defensive battle. Seattle's been playing good defense in the second half of the year. I expect that to be the same in this game. If Goff's out there, I think it should be it's gonna be is Robert Woods there? Can they establish a run game? Is Cam Akers able to play? All that kind of stuff is gonna be included. And can Russell Wilson kind of get out of this slump that he ended the season in and be playoff Russell Wilson, be, beginning of the season Russell Wilson, on his way to an MVP, which kind of fell off a cliff. Can he regain that? I'll be watching that. I actually would put money on that Russell Wilson has a really good game in this first week. Do you kind of agree with that?
I want to, right? I want to agree. I really do. And both teams, they split their season matchup. Both teams won by over a touchdown. So it hasn't been like a 3-point game the last 2 games that they've played. But it's going to come down to turnovers, essentially. And it's going to be interesting with Russell Wilson. For the first 8 weeks of the year, he was the runaway MVP candidate. And as we all know, the last 9 weeks of the full season, he's no longer mentioned. It's tough to be so good for 8 weeks and then just not have a mention as the season ends. It's impressive to see how poorly they've seemingly played. And I understand Wofford has a shot at getting in this game, right? And I think Wofford has a pretty good shot at starting this game. But that Rams defense, man, the way Wilson's kind of been careless has been concerning. And Jalen Ramsey has only allowed 20 yards a game all year. Like that's his average, 20 yards a game. In the NFL now that's I don't even know the word, unreal, absurd. I tried to make that one word there. Yeah, he's everything they wanted in a cornerback there. And it's going to be low scoring. I think Seattle sneaks it out because if Goff plays, what are we going to get out of him? It's not
that big of a threat. It makes their team better because he's their team leader, but it's not going to do that much. I think Seattle is the better team. I think the Rams have the better defense.
Right.
But these games always, are just, back and forth, low scoring and whatnot. And I think Seattle's just a little bit better, and they'll find their way out on top.
Yeah, I can't really disagree with that because we're going to get turnovers from either Goff or Wofford because we're going to hear about Goff's hand being an issue. There's going to be a ball that sails, and there's going to be a fumble. That's all we're going to see. They're going to zoom in it on with like that 8K camera that they've been using,
I
like
hope so.
40 times.
They need more of that. Like they need to find it. They're going to have that in the future. Maybe a few years down the road, most of the cameras should look like that. I mean, I guess they got to be
cinematic
up close
masterpiece.
They got that. Is it just Seattle they got it? Because I've seen it in the Seattle games only.
Seattle gets it they've got it like 2 or 3 times. The Eagles had it once. Wish they didn't because it was just
The
It was
NFL
bad.
owns one 8K camera and they ship it around.
I mean, the way that they're shooting these games, it seems like that. But Seattle 4-point favorites. I think I'm gonna take them and the 4. So I don't love it, but I think Goff isn't going to be healthy enough for him to add to the team. I think he may subtract from the team, and if Wofford's in there, it's gonna be a whitewash if he's in there.
Yeah, I would make the same bet. So we're gonna have Seattle moving on to the next round, and we're gonna go ahead and move on to the 2 versus 7 matchup, which is the New Orleans Saints, who finished at 12-4. We're hoping to squeeze into that 1 seed, but Green Bay ended up beating Chicago in Week 17. Then Chicago squeezes in with an Arizona loss with an 8-8 record. I think most people probably have this game very lopsided. New Orleans has not lost to the Bears since 2008. I think they've played 6 or 7 times since then, and they've won every single matchup. In 2008, the Bears did in an overtime win. So I don't, lately it seems like the Saints have the Bears number. They did beat them in overtime this year, so it wasn't a crazy blowout like last year when Latavius Murray rushed for like 150 yards and multiple touchdowns. But I think the Saints are a better team. Drew Brees is back. Alvin Kamara is a much better player when Drew Brees is on the field, and they're able to use Taysom Hill the way they want him to. The key factor is can Michael Thomas get going? I'm very, everyone's waiting. Everyone's waiting for the old Michael Thomas, the guy that's catching 10 balls over 100 yards. The possession receiver that's moving the chains. Hasn't been there this year. Clearly battled injuries and whatnot. I don't know if they need Michael Thomas to have that kind of performance to beat the Bears. The Bears defense, previously known as a championship caliber defense, it just hasn't been that lately. They haven't been that this year. They've had, they shine some light, some of those moments, but clearly, their offense has picked up a little bit with Mitch Trubisky, but I do not think it's a threat to the Saints, who have one of the better defenses in the league. I think it's kind of a blowout. I'd like you to drop the line so I can, give my
Yeah, yeah.
insight
So
on
the
that.
Saints are 9.5-point favorites. So
Yeah, I would probably take the Saints on that. I don't think the Bears can hold off the Saints offense throughout the game to
yeah,
less than a touchdown.
especially because it's in New Orleans.
Yes.
I feel a lot better about that because Bears weather is weird, where you can kind of get lucky with Bears weather. The Bears lost them 26-23 this year, but I don't know what's up with that Bears team in general. Dave Montgomery has been kind of their saving grace down the stretch, but the Saints' run defense isn't a joke. I really think that they're one of the best units in football. They had that streak of like 60 straight games, not giving up a 100-yard rusher break this year. It doesn't change them really as a rush defense. So I think I agree with you on the Saints covering, but that's going to be one that I stay away from just in general, just because that number's pretty fat, and it's the NFL and it's the playoffs. So 9.5 is a fat number, so I'm staying away from that.
And it was a closer game earlier in the year, so certainly that is a big number. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the AFC. We'll start out with the first game. 5th seed Baltimore 11-5 record goes to Tennessee to face the 4th seed 11-5 team. I think this is going to be probably one of the better games of the weekend. Man, how great is it that we have 6 games on Wild Card Weekend? It is just really fun. But I'm excited to watch this one. Baltimore is heating up. They're on a 5-game win streak, and Lamar Jackson is suddenly Lamar Jackson of last year, the MVP, breaking 1,000 rushing yards on the season again. The first quarterback to ever do that twice. That's awesome for him. He's so fun to watch. Tennessee giving up a lot of rush yards. They just let A.J. Dillon 2 weeks ago go off for a bunch. Aaron Jones had a great game. They gave up a lot of rush yards to the Green Bay Packers, and certainly that was a snowy game and whatnot, so that the elements weren't on their side. But their rush defense is not great, and that is what Baltimore likes to do. So that's what we'll be watching in this game, is for Baltimore to continue to have the elaborate rushing attack against the Tennessee Titans. But on the Tennessee Titans side, Mr. Derrick Henry, man, 2,000 yards, man, so fun to watch. This guy is amazing, and you knew there was a little sliver of doubt somehow that Vrabel wouldn't let him get there. They were up big in that game, but they let him go. Got over 2,000 rush yards, and another fun piece to watch in that offense. Don't want to stray away from Derrick Henry and what he's been doing, but A.J. Brown and Tannehill, man, they are cooking. A.J. Brown's going to be such a high pick in fantasy drafts next year, but they're just fun to watch. He's clearly their X receiver. Gets down the field. Tannehill has a really good connection with him, and like I mentioned, this is going to be just a really good game. What's the line on this thing?
This is my underdog pick of the week, Steve.
Okay.
Tennessee is underdogs by 3 at home,
Oh yeah, you
which to
mentioned
me,
that. I don't get it.
don't love that, right? Because Tennessee has already beaten the Ravens this year,
Yep.
and Baltimore, I get it, right? They're, I guess, the better team, but are like they don't feel it to me, you know. It's not a great matchup for Baltimore. I really don't like that the strength of Baltimore is seemingly their pass defense, and I think that Baltimore needs to get up to win this game, and I don't know if they do on Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of weapons for Tennessee, and they're starting to kind of click a little bit. That was a wild way for them to win this last week with the Sam Sloman doink off the upright.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't like Baltimore as favorites at all, especially on the road, especially already losing once to Tennessee. Derrick Henry, I don't know if the 85 Bears can stop Derrick Henry. You know, this guy is unbelievable. He's one of the best rushers of my lifetime, and he just continues to not get treated as such for some reason because the fantasy world has construed it as he doesn't catch the ball enough, so he's not as valuable as guys that do. And he was probably a league winner for most people. I know his week 16 wasn't great, but hopefully, you know, you probably got him in the second round anyway. So it's interesting to see how players like Derrick Henry are thought about because they're not the new school type of guy, and he's a backbreaker. If he breaks off one or two huge runs, that game's over. To me, they've got home run hitters on that team, and they don't even have to take home run shots to have home run hits. Like it's crazy that you can throw a 5-yard slant to AJ Brown. He can break 4 tackles and find the end zone 80 yards away. I absolutely love the Titans as a team. I love Mike Vrabel as a coach, and them giving points it's disgusting that they're getting points from the Ravens this week. That they're underdogs in their own stadium. With honestly, Derrick Henry is going to be the best guy on the field, regardless of Lamar Jackson also being on the field. I don't think that's a crazy take. I think Derrick Henry deserves MVP votes that he's not going to get. No offense to your boy, but I really think that Tennessee pulls this one out.
Yeah, if it's any sort of shootout, I really don't like the chances of Baltimore. I don't know if they can keep up. I like Ryan Tannehill in that clutch situation a little more than I like Lamar Jackson because their game is a little more one-dimensional. Certainly last week, Lamar Jackson got it going through the air a little bit more, but he hasn't been consistent. You really can't trust the pass game. He's always going to have his legs. I think an X factor for their team might be J.K. Dobbins. Can they get him going early? Can they break off some big plays and get up early? As you mentioned, I just don't know if that happens. Tennessee being an underdog at home, it just doesn't seem right. This is more of a pick 'em to me. If anything, Baltimore should be like a 1.5 point underdog. But yeah, for this one, I'm going to go with Tennessee as well. And part of me wants to pick Baltimore because I do like what they're able to do on the ground. But just what I mentioned, I do think it's going to be a little higher scoring. And I do not think Baltimore can keep up with Tennessee. I think their offense is really potent. So I do like Tennessee to move on to the divisional round. Let's go move on to the 3 versus 6. That's Pittsburgh. They finished with a 12-4 record going against Cleveland, 11-5 record. Cleveland hasn't been in the playoffs since 2002. Hasn't won a playoff game since 1994. So I don't think it has much to do with it. It's just a media thing. I don't think the team really thinks much of it. They were clearly excited to get there. Luckily, losing to the Jets in Week 16 didn't come back to bite them. They still got there. Luckily, they got to face the Steelers with Ben Roethlisberger out. But Ben Roethlisberger will be playing in this game, and I think that is the game changer because Mason Rudolph, I do not think is a good NFL quarterback. They brought in Josh Dobbs, not a good NFL quarterback, and that was still a close game. They barely won that game. And I think the Steelers are a better team, even though they've kind of hit a skid in the latter half of the season. They're just a better team. Pittsburgh hasn't had to run the ball. It's been the thing all year long. can Pittsburgh run the ball? Why aren't they running the ball? That's just not what their team is this year. They don't run the ball. They actually don't need to because Deontay Johnson is such a factor on that team. Juju is an underrated factor this year. He's not getting enough credit for what he's doing on the field. And then you have other guys like James Washington, Eric Ebron, guys like that are able to create big plays as well. And Ben Roethlisberger is playing good football. If anything, the defense, the injuries on that side of the ball has kind of what has hurt their team later in the season. We'll see if they can come together, squeeze out a victory against Cleveland. I think Cleveland is nothing to just shy off. This is going to be, can the Browns do what they do best, which they haven't done in the last couple of weeks as far as give the ball to Nick Chubb, give the ball to Kareem Hunt late in the game. And when they lost to the Jets, I think the Browns had like 7 rushes in the game or some crazy stuff like that. Like, it just didn't make sense. That's not what they do. That's not their MO. They need to get Nick Chubb going early. They need to make this game won in the trenches, and they need to defend the pass against Pittsburgh. I do like Pittsburgh in this game, not by a lot. Once I hear the spread, I'll kind of give them a little more insight on that. But I like Pittsburgh in this game, no matter what, to win it.
Yeah. So the Steelers are 6-point favorites.
Okay.
I'm smashing that. I'm smashing the Steelers.
Okay.
There's a lot going against the Browns this week. But aside from having pretty much the biggest change that they had from last year to this year in Stefanski being out, when I feel like a team thinks that they won the Super Bowl without winning the Super Bowl, they're usually good for a letdown, right? And it's great that the city of Cleveland has a playoff team, but they seem satisfied being a playoff team. I feel great for Baker Mayfield. But there's a lot stacked against them, and I think they know that, which is kind of disappointing. Because Baker's the type of guy that feels like he wants to keep winning, and like he's talked about like winning the Super Bowl. That's great, but the elation they had when they won this past week, it wasn't a team that's been there before, and like I'm sure that'll come as they enter the playoffs more. But their success isn't going to come this year. They've already lost 38-7 to the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, and they barely snuck out a 24-22 win against the Steelers this last week. They're going to get smoked, I feel like, and they'll be able to take a Cleveland Browns moral victory, like, oh, we got there. Our head coach wasn't there in the playoffs. We could have done more if he was there. They're going to get dusted. And I feel bad, but at the same time, the people of Cleveland are just thrilled to be a part of the dance. And that's great for them, but it's ending in the first round.
Yeah, the AFC is just too good this year. Just Miami Dolphins miss. A lot of 11-5 teams. The AFC North is just really good, and they're a part of that, and that's why they're the 6th seed. Sometimes I kind of feel like Baker Mayfield is just trying to be like that typical leader quarterback for his team, whatnot, saying all the right things. But you can say a lot of things, but until you bring it to the field and show it, talk Super Bowl all you want, but you got to get there, and Pittsburgh's a better team. So I do think that the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think I would hit that -6 as well. I like them in this game. I think they come out hot. I think Deontay Johnson's going to be great in this game. I don't know too much about the rushing attack, but they don't need it, as I mentioned. So Pittsburgh moves on. Moving on to the number 2 seed versus 7 seed. That's the Buffalo Bills, 13-3, versus the Indianapolis Colts, 11-5. Before I say anything, what's the spread on this one?
Yeah, Buffalo favorites -6.5.
-6.5. I think I would hit that one as well, super hard.
Yeah.
Buffalo is just too hot right now. I mean, Josh Allen is just playing. He's playing at MVP level. If Aaron Rodgers didn't throw 48 touchdown passes with only 5 interceptions, I think that Josh Allen definitely would get a few more votes. It's just such an improvement from last year in the pass game, just insane. And a big part of that is having Stephon Diggs. They might be my favorite combination in the league. Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs is just so fun to watch. The guy's a target monster. He's everything we wanted him to be in Minnesota, but better. Last year, Stephon Diggs, 1,400 yards in Minnesota on only like 93 targets. That's insane.
Yeah.
A guy like this, we've seen what he can do in Buffalo now. He's probably been able to do all along. Just Josh Allen and him in this system just makes so much more sense for his game. So I'm going to be looking to watch that. I think Indianapolis defense is great, but I think Buffalo is just too good. Their offense is too dynamic. They're too hot right now. And as far as Indianapolis goes, I think the key for them having a chance in this game in covering that, if not trying to win, obviously trying to win, but maybe getting a win, is to keep rolling with what they're doing, and that's Jonathan Taylor. He has just been booming the last quarter of the season, really ramping it up. I'm really excited to watch this guy in the future. Over 250 yards on the ground last week. Just super fun to watch. I just don't know if that's going to be enough. Phillip Rivers has clearly outperformed his expectations this year in Indianapolis. They're an 11-5 football team, and he's been a big part of it for sure. These receivers, they've been getting it done with not too many big name guys, and they've been getting games done. I don't think it's enough. Buffalo's too good. They're a really good second seed at 13-3. Some other years they might be the 1 seed, but Kansas City is still in the NFL today, so that I don't know if that's going to happen here in the next couple of years. But they're right there with them. I really like Buffalo in this game to cover that for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm riding with Buffalo. There's never been a player in the NFL that I've done a complete 180 on quicker than Josh Allen. If somebody digs up our hot take video from the beginning of the year, I think I had Josh Allen at least outside the top 10.
I remember the same video because I picked Diggs to be a top 10 receiver or something like that. And then you're like, this is going to spoil it because I picked Josh Allen. And I was like, you can have a top receiver without a top quarterback. Yeah. Little did we know Josh Allen would be the number 1 fantasy quarterback.
The accuracy thing just scared the life out of me. And the fact that he had 1 billion touchdowns on the ground, I thought he wasn't going to replicate it. But he improved his accuracy. His running backs weren't any good, so he still found the end zone with his legs, and he proved everybody wrong. And hand up, he was on my fantasy team, and I've never loved a quarterback more that has not been a Philadelphia Eagle than Josh Allen. The way he plays is unbelievable. He came into this year with a completely different mindset. He's an amazing leader for that team. I mean, we've seen the clips before games, especially the one against the Steelers, where he made sure that the guys were focused and not focused on all the outside stuff with Juju. He was really dialed in this year, and I really think that this team is going to the AFC Championship at minimum because I really believe in that offense. Dude, I don't even know what to think of Josh Allen because
I think I'm a Bills fan. Like I always tell people that's my AFC team now because I love Josh Allen so much. I'm in love with that team this year for some reason.
Yeah, the Bills are just an exciting team to watch because every throw that Josh Allen makes, you feel like it's going to end up in a touchdown. It's crazy to think that every throw he makes could be a touchdown just because of how hard he throws the ball. And I feel like every other pass is like a 40-yard attempt, and they're all completed. I don't know. I don't understand.
He's getting a lot of time. You've seen those videos. He's just standing in the pocket. The offensive line is not getting enough credit. I mean, they were playing amazing. He's just standing there, finding guys, and then, like you said, he's throwing fastballs. So when the guy gets open, he's hitting them. That accuracy is there, and he's throwing a fastball to him. So he's completing that pass. It's really fun to watch, man. It's something else, man. I love it.
No complaints there.
So we're taking Buffalo for sure. We're moving them on to the divisional round. Let's go and switch back to the NFC and move on to the divisional round. And we'll bring in the Green Bay Packers to face, I guess it would be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a rematch of earlier this year, a game I was personally at. It was tough. It was tough to watch. The Packers go up 10-0 early in that game, and they don't score another point. And Tampa Bay hangs 37 on them. So it was a tough game to watch coming off the bye. The Packers weren't great, as they usually aren't off the bye week. But I think it's a different team. They're both different teams at this point in the season. At that point in the season, Tampa Bay's offense was something, it was something to be reckoned with. It was definitely, or their defense. It was very, very good. Their pass defense has let up a little bit, but they're still a good defense. But their offense is really, really picking it up. Even though they scored 37 on the Packers, it wasn't a crazy offensive day. There was turnovers in that game by Aaron Rodgers and other players on the field. And Green Bay's offense is playing really well right now. They're on a 6-game win streak. It's going to be a big test. The Packers only lost this year to the Vikings, the Colts, and the Buccaneers. I would say the loss to the Colts wasn't a great one because they were up pretty much that whole game. And they lost to the Vikings, who, the Green Bay's a much better team. So they could have even had a better record. It doesn't matter. They got the number 1 seed. But I'll definitely be watching. Can the Packers slow down Tom Brady? And I do like the way the Packers, our defense is playing right now. Darnell Savage is a beast right now, man. He's so good. And Jaire Alexander, he's been locked down. He's got to get some votes for Defensive Player of the Year in the NFC, no doubt. He's just been really, really good. And can Mike Evans play? I think it's a big
Yeah,
factor.
exactly.
If Mike Evans, and I've seen some news since we've been recording this video, he didn't practice on Tuesday, which is today when we're recording this. So it's not looking great. It is early in the week still for them, to play in Washington. If he plays this week, hope he doesn't re-injure it. But next week, is he going to be there? Are they going to have their full roster? If they have their full receiving weapons in Godwin and Antonio Brown and Mike Evans against the Packers, I think they're going to have trouble because someone's going to be facing off against Kevin King, and it's not pretty. He hasn't had a good season. So I do like Green Bay in this game, but not by a lot.
I do too.
Shoot me the spread.
Yeah.
What's the spread?
We don't have a spread yet, Steve. It's an imaginary game.
No, make it up. Make it up.
I think I've got to go Packers minus 2.5.
Yeah,
if I had to set one.
I was going to say 3.5.
Because normally you get the 3 points for being the home team, and there's always that weird Brady magic that can happen. I think it's going to really come down to if Ronald Jones can get chugging. Mm-hmm. Jair Alexander finished as the top cornerback for Pro Football Focus. I know no one likes Pro Football Focus, but that's a measure. They measure all the cornerbacks. Yeah. He was the best one. He's really, really good. And it's going to be interesting because it's going to be cold in Green Bay. There's a reason why Tom Brady left New England aside from the curmudgeon up north. He definitely wanted to be somewhere that was warm, and that's not Green Bay. I'm at least excited to see Brady back in like a frozen tundra setting, but it's not good for him. It's just a fact. I mean, it's just not something that a 43-year-old should be doing. So I do like Green Bay in this game. I think that it's going to be a tight one. It's going to be an all-time classic that we're going to watch over and over again. But I think Green Bay sneaks out.
Yeah, Tampa Bay feels like the new Seahawks for the Packers for some reason, just after playing them once this year with Brady. But I do like the Packers as well. I don't think Tom Brady will be playing in the Super Bowl in his home ballpark this year. So Green Bay will move on to the NFC Championship. Let's go on to the other game. It looks like New Orleans is going to take on the Seahawks, and this should be a good one as well. But for some reason, I feel like the spread is going to be a decent amount of points towards the Saints. I don't like Seattle in this matchup. I think they're able to get to Russell Wilson, who takes a lot of sacks, a lot of scrambling and whatnot. I don't think that New Orleans will have a tough time with Seattle's defense. I did mention earlier that Seattle's defense has been picking it up. I don't think it's much of a threat, though, to the Saints. They're just a much more balanced, rounded team with Drew Brees under center, Alvin Kamara running the ball. I don't know. I would kind of put this line at, honestly, like -7 or maybe
it's gonna be fat. I mean, the Saints are lucky enough that they will at least have another home game. Yep. Which is big for them. I think they win this game. And, dude, I don't know what to think of Seattle. They're kind of similar to the Packers where you felt like they were going to win a million Super Bowls, right? You felt like Russell Wilson was going to bring them at least 2 or 3. And they've got one. They've been to another. But all in all, they've kind of been disappointing as it comes to the postseason, right? The Legion of Boom should have brought them more. I don't know what to think of this team, and it's not the best Seattle team we've seen, even remotely close, I don't think. Obviously, I love their wide receivers, Lockett, Metcalf, they're great. Chris Carson has been weird this year. In a contract year, it's been weird. He hasn't been super healthy, and he hasn't popped to me where, like, there was seasons past where he's hurdling guys and just running guys through their face. It just doesn't feel like a great Seattle team. They've really, sputtered out towards the end of the year. I got to go with the Saints at home.
Yeah, the Seahawks just seem scrappy, and I don't think you can be scrappy and beat the New Orleans Saints at home with the kind of team they have this year. So it's going to be Green Bay versus the Saints in the NFC Championship. We didn't pick any underdogs as far as seeds go, but it's kind of tough. I think it's tough. I think we picked the right teams, or at least the teams we think. Let's move on to the AFC, to the Divisional Round, and we're going to have Tennessee taking on the number 1 seed Kansas City Chiefs. And this is another one, man. I think this is it's going to be a classic. I think it's going to be a good game. I like the way that Tennessee lines up against Kansas City. As always, Kansas City is very well equipped with Mahomes, Kelsey, who would finish second in receiving yards this year, and Hill with I think he was second in touchdowns, receiving touchdowns. But Kansas City not playing their best football. The last couple weeks, week 16, nail biter to the Falcons, won by 3 points. Squeezed by a good Saints team in week 15, but their average margin of victory over their last 8 games is less than 4 points, and half of those teams have a 500 or sub 500 record. That's not the kind of football you want to be playing going into the playoffs as a number 1 seed. Luckily, they got it, so they got some time to recoup. But I think when you watch a team, they're visually not playing that well of football, and that's part of the reason Mahomes kind of dropped off. I know he didn't play in week 17, but as far as the MVP race goes against Rodgers, I think Rodgers just swooped it up. I'm locking him in to win the MVP, and it's kind of partial because Mahomes just kind of finished the season kind of dull. That whole team did a little bit. Their defense was a little underwhelming, and they're just not playing the best. The bye week, has got to be good to them, and I think it will be. I think they're going to come out hot, but it's definitely concerning. Like I mentioned, this is going to be a nail biter. I would put the line at Kansas City -2.5, with the potential for a Tennessee win. Anything specific to speak on the Titans here matching up against the Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like every year it's a Titans-Chiefs playoff match, but I don't know how that's happened. I mean, there was the one that was the Mariota self-pass touchdown. They played last year. The Chiefs pulled that out 35-24, but they scored 14 in the fourth quarter. So it's going to be – I mean, anytime you can get Derrick Henry in the cold on your team, that's an advantage, right?
Yeah.
And if it's cold in Kansas City, it is kind of a deterrent from what the Chiefs do best. And I know the Chiefs' pass defense has been pretty solid. So it's going to be interesting to see how this game plays out. I think if the Titans can get up early, it's just going to be a Derrick Henry show. But, dude, it is very tough to pick against the Chiefs, just because anything can happen with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he can throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns in a blizzard. So I'm going to stick with the Chiefs. I don't love it. It's going to be a great game. And it's going to be interesting where the smart money goes if that's truly the matchup that week.
I would shy away from this one. It'd be too hard for me to pick because part of me would want to put a lot of money on Tennessee for some reason.
Yeah.
But I don't think I could. So we're going to move the Chiefs on. No surprises. I do think some people might pick Tennessee in that game just because what I mentioned earlier as far as Kansas City's sliding off just a little bit as far as their effectiveness. But I think, big game for Tyreek Hill and Kelsey could be on the way, most likely is. So I will take Kansas City. I'll move on to the second matchup in the AFC Divisional Round, and that will be Buffalo versus the Steelers. The Steelers will head to Buffalo. Interesting that the Steelers didn't try to go for that number 2 seed against the Browns, But, hey, it is what it is. Buffalo, as we mentioned, one of our favorite teams in the playoffs right now. In the NFL, Josh Allen's playing really good, and they just beat up on the Steelers just a few weeks ago. I don't even know if it's going to be that close. I'm worried about the Steelers' defense. I think Buffalo learned from the last game. They were able to execute their game plan, and I don't know if they even have to go away from that too much. I don't know if the Steelers can do enough to stop Josh Allen in this offense. It's pretty easy for me to pick Buffalo here. I actually kind of think the Colts might actually play a better game against Buffalo.
I can't argue with that at all. Just because the Bills feel like they're peaking at the right time, right? And that's key for any Super Bowl champion. I mean, I saw it with my Eagles. You obviously saw it with your Packers. When you're peaking at the right time, that's the most important thing. And a lot of these teams in the playoffs feel like they almost snuck in. Like it doesn't feel like these guys have been peaking as teams. It's a weird year, and it's going to take a team to get hot in the playoffs. And I think it can be the Bills. They've really been kind of a diaper dandy of sorts this year, and I really do like the optics for them, especially because I like the secondary for the Bills. I like them a lot, actually. And if the Steelers can't run the ball, what are we doing here? I mean, you can't be one-dimensional on offense and expect to win games. The Steelers have been floundering, and it's been an interesting downfall for them. Obviously, Big Ben always has a little bit of magic, but I think I've got to ride with Buffalo in this one.
Yeah, that's going to be great. I can't wait to talk about that game against the Chiefs. But moving on, back to the NFC, to the championship game. That's going to be Green Bay versus the Saints. And I think it's kind of the game everyone's waiting for. The earlier in the season, it was a classic. It was 37-10 Green Bay down in New Orleans, but they didn't have Devontae Adams. The Saints didn't have Michael Thomas. We don't know what kind of year Michael Thomas would have had if he didn't get injured. So, at the time, it seems like it wouldn't have mattered. But we know kind of season Devontae Adams has had after being injured, and that's been amazing. So I think that's going to be a big deal. I think Devontae Adams is the best player on their team, with Aaron Rodgers. And they look for him early, often, and throughout the game. And I don't know if the Saints have anything to stop it. I'm not really worried about Marshawn Lattimore or Malcolm Jenkins, able to get up on Devontae Adams, what he's able to do. And I think the Packers are playing a lot better defense than people expected at this time of year, especially in the run game where they got hit so hard throughout the year by a lot of big name analysts and whatnot, but they've been playing really well. Just a few weeks ago against the Titans, they were able to hold Derrick Henry to a very minimal game compared to what he's done against other teams labeled to have really bad rush defenses, as the Packers have. But I'm pretty sure the Packers are actually inside the top 15 as far as rush defense goes, especially as of late. They've got to be top 10 over the last 5 or 6 weeks. So with Alvin Kamara, I think he's going to be the X factor for the Saints and through the passing game. Can he get it done through the passing game? Are the Saints able to go up early? Because there's not much stopping Aaron Rodgers nowadays. He's just throwing too many touchdowns. He's too efficient. I don't know if the Saints have the key players on defense to be able to snatch up the ball. I am worried about David Bakhtiari. He tore his ACL. It didn't do too much in their last game against the Bears. It was a closer game than that end score ended up saying. But I think it's just going to take some adjustments. Matt LaFleur's game plan. He's going to execute against the Saints. I think it's going to be another close one. If I had to guess the spread, I think I would probably give the Packers like 4.5 or something like that.
That's probably what I was going to say.
Yeah.
But I'm smashing that for the Packers. I don't think it's going to be. I legitimately don't think it'll be that close.
Where do you think the Saints struggle?
Drew Brees away from the dome is where they struggle.
Lambeau. It's going to be that was such a key of getting the number 1 seed for sure.
It's going to be an issue for Drew Brees. I understand he's retiring this year. It's going to be the fun little thing where it's his going away tour. Like maybe he's got one last run. Dude, if he goes into Lambeau, it's going to be a nightmare. He's not good in the cold. He's not good on the road. Mm-hmm. He's old. He's an old quarterback. And wouldn't it be just absolutely beautiful if Aaron Rodgers gets to beat Tom Brady and then he gets to beat Drew Brees on the way to another Super Bowl? And I feel like that just changes his legacy completely on top of winning an MVP. I mean, it feels like this should be a slam dunk win for the Packers.
Love to hear it. Ryan. All right, let's move on to the AFC Championship in a game that we hinted before. The Chiefs, Buffalo comes to town to Kansas City. This is going to be a great game. They played early in the season. Chiefs got their better half, but I think Buffalo is coming back with vengeance. For some reason, I picture Kansas City. I think everyone's in love with Buffalo right now. They're like the hero, and Kansas City feels like the villain. Even though Patrick Mahomes is a very likable guy. But there's like this three-headed monster. It's Mahomes, Hill, and Kelsey. And for some reason, they just feel like the bad guys. They won last year. We want something different. We love Josh Allen. We love Stephon Diggs. We want to see the underdog come in, which I don't think they're too big of underdogs. If I had to guess the line, it'd be pretty tight. But go ahead. Keep going. I got to.
I mean, personally, I think the cute pick is to pick the Bills in this game, right? It's great that the Bills are doing this. It's great to see Josh Allen turn into this folk hero quarterback. You know who already is the folk hero quarterback? It's Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be tough to argue against the Chiefs in any area. It's going to be a perfect game played by whoever's playing them to beat them. I know that it feels like it should be close. And like it might be. We've got Andy Reid against his old defensive coordinator, Sean McDermott.
Yeah.
And that's a fun little storyline if Andy Reid gets to the AFC Championship, and he will be the only person to ever host 3 straight AFC Championship games ever, twice.
Is there a coach on any team in the NFL that doesn't have a back branch to Andy Reid?
I don't think so. I was looking at like the 2000 Andy Reid coaching tree, and it was like Ron Rivera, the Harbaughs, like
Yeah,
Gruden. Like yeah,
crazy.
everyone coached under Andy Reid.
Love it.
So it makes Holmgren's tree look enormous, but it's Andy Reid.
I,
And
I,
there's another video for me talking about the head coaching positions that are opening and like Eric Bieniemy getting jobs. But like we've seen it with Nagy, we're now seeing it again with Peterson. That the guys that come from Reid on the offensive side, I usually would prefer to stay away from. I hope Bieniemy is a different breed, but that's a different video. Yeah, I think Kansas City wins this game. It's going to be close, but Kansas City's been there before. They know how to win these games where only Stephon Diggs knows how to win kind of these games for the Bills, you know? And that matters a lot, especially at home for Kansas City. I feel like Kansas City probably should just handle their business. I think it'll be a close game, but I think it'll feel like Kansas City's had a grip of the entire game. There's going to be a lot of cute predictions that have the Bills over the Chiefs, but I'm not going that way. I've got to go with the Chiefs, dude.
You hit the nail, on the coffin. Like I do think that a lot of people will pick the Bills, but it's that been there, done that experience that Mahomes has at such a young age and implements it so well on the football field. I will definitely be rooting for the Bills, but I do think that Kansas City, I think they're down in this game. I think Kansas City's down in this game, and I think they come back and the experience of Patrick Mahomes, the Tyreek Hill late in the game, those key passes to Kelsey over the middle, and they're gonna come back and they're gonna win this game, and I think they win by maybe 2 or 3. So it's gonna be close, but I will pick Kansas City as well. Before we started filming this video, I was pretty locked in that I was going to pick the Buffalo Bills, but your just extensive analysis right there just made me swing, and it's hard to go against Chiefs, as you mentioned. It's hard to pick against them, man. They're so good. So we have our Super Bowl matchup, and it's pretty much what everyone is predicting. It's the Green Bay Packers versus the Kansas City Chiefs down in Tampa Bay, and it sounds like a good game to me. Like, it sounds like a really good game. I think it's a good matchup as far as the passing attacks go, for sure. I think it has potential to be a shootout Super Bowl. I think it doesn't have a high chance to be the kind of game we saw between like the Rams and the Patriots a few years ago. Like there's zero chance of that, where it was 10-7 or something like that. Chance. This game sounds like an over 50 total for sure. And that's the kind of Super Bowl everyone wants. For sure, we want to see Aaron Rodgers slinging the ball to Devontae Adams. We want to see Patrick Mahomes tossing bombs to Tyreek Hill. That's what we want to see, and I think we'll get that. As far as how these teams match up, as I mentioned before, I think Kansas City is they're right now they're on a slope, a little downhill slope. But I think the bye week will do well, and they'll ramp it back up throughout the playoffs. They'll beat the Tennessee Titans, and then they'll beat the Buffalo Bills, and they'll be back to their form mid-season. Patrick Mahomes killing it. I think the Packers defense is great, and I think they're going to have a tough day. But I don't think it's going to be a catastrophic day. I think it's going to be a good enough day to, get some key third down stops, get them off the field. I think that a big part of this game is going to be Kansas City controlling the ball. We just saw this past game in Week 17 where the Bears actually held the time of possession like way more than the Green Bay Packers, and that game was a 21-16 game in the fourth quarter. And that's what you have to do to stop Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. You got to hold the ball. You got to be able to run the ball. They did that kind of with Dave Montgomery in that game, but it wasn't that effective. The Chiefs are going to be passing all over the Packers. That's what they're going to have to do. If I had to make a prediction of this game, I think it's going to be really, really close.
What? You went out on a limb there, Steve.
No. The Packers have lost some close games this year to good teams like the Colts.
Right.
And that was tough. I can see the Packers being up, and I can see them falling down. It's really hard for me to do this, man. It is. I'm gonna take the Chiefs. I don't want to. I don't want to. I want it to be a really good miracle year, MVP season for Rodgers, and a miracle story. But
look, Steve. So here's the thing, right?
All right, okay.
I started the year on the Aaron Rodgers revenge tour, right? I talked about how his girl left him, right? They drafted a quarterback. He's been kicked in the mud. I said he'd be quarterback 3 for fantasy. I think he's 4. Close enough.
You hit it.
It's neither here nor there. Yeah, exactly. I was all over it. Do you know how much Aaron Rodgers wants to beat Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and the heir apparent Pat Mahomes in
Boom.
one playoff?
Oh man, can that? Yeah. Wow, that changed my opinion.
The the ultimate revenge tour and go kick rocks move
They could
for
write a movie.
drafting a first is for drafting a first round quarterback is to be the MVP, the Super Bowl champion, and the Super Bowl MVP.
That's a movie,
I
man.
mean, there's absolutely nothing better for Aaron Rodgers to do, right? It's brutal for you to pick against your Packers, and I understand you being hesitant about doing that,
It almost
right?
like
Because
makes me feel better. You know
you
how people do it.
yeah,
You think you're an underdog. You're like, oh, we're
yeah,
gonna lose. But then when we win, it feels better. Like maybe that's what I'm
exactly.
doing. Maybe that's what I'm doing.
It's 100% what you're doing, and the spots where the Packers struggle, run defense, right? Dude, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the same height and weight as me. Obviously, the body mass index is a little off, right? But like,
Just a little.
he's not a three down back, and he's not
Yeah.
going to run all over the Packers. Like
Yes, you're
even
right.
Damian Williams might have been able to do. You know, I feel like Damian Williams in this spot would have been so much better for
I
the
agree.
Chiefs.
I agree with that
And
statement.
it hurts that he's not going to be there because it takes away because he's also been there. He honestly could have been the Super Bowl MVP. No one wants to talk about that.
Should have been.
You know, he was there. He was all over it.
Yeah.
Um,
It had like
but
a James White feel from a few
he really
years ago.
did.
It
He
should have
really
been
did.
similar, because Mahomes got the MVP in that game because of what he was able to do late in the
Yeah,
game and start the comeback and execute the comeback. But Damian Williams was clearly the best producer on the
no,
field in all aspects. I think
wasn't
he
close.
scored most of their points. So
Yeah, so that's a huge deterrent for me picking the Chiefs. I'm
yeah,
not going to pick the Chiefs, Steve.
yeah.
I'm not picking them because I don't want the trolls in the little comment section saying that we went chalk because I'm not doing it
I
because
don't
I really
know. I sorry to cut you off. As I made my pick of the Chiefs, it always felt sour. I don't know if the Chiefs. I know they have a lot, but their game seems one dimensional, as you mentioned. And the Packers have a good secondary. They actually do. They have a
yeah
couple key pieces that they can be beat, like Kevin King, as mentioned before. But they have Alexander. They have Savage, in the backfield. Like it's there, and they can cover Kelsey. They can cover Hill. They can't lock him down, but it seems one dimensional. If they can get to Mahomes, if they can put the pressure on, can the Chiefs stop Aaron Rodgers? Man, I'm not convinced.
see it's not as easy as you think, Steve, and
It's not.
that's the beauty of it.
I really love the way
Uh,
the system is working out right now for Matt LaFleur in
I
his second year. It's
I
it looks
started the
good.
video saying that I was going to pick an AFC team, and I've completely flipped as I've talked myself into it,
Yeah.
which is great because I still have a week before all the wild card games get played.
Yeah.
So I'll flip flop about 7 times before that. It's just just mainly us breaking down the lines, breaking down the matchups. I really think that the Packers do have a better shot at winning that, even though I've got preseason money on the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. I didn't know Aaron Rodgers was going to go nuclear on
Yes.
everybody. I had a hunch. I didn't know it was going to be this extent. I'm very impressed with what he's doing this year. Devontae Adams is by far the best wide receiver in the NFL. It doesn't even seem close. Doesn't seem fair. And they've got my boy Big Bobby Tunyon. No one's going to cover him. So he might be the best tight end in the game.
He's been great.
That's a joke. Please don't roast me for that take.
On
Uh,
the up and up though. I'm not gonna say he's
love,
even close to
love,
that, but
yeah, and the Bobby Tunyon revenge tour for not being a Pro Bowler is in full effect now. So
we're not getting into this video. But man, all right,
yeah, so don't rule out those Packers. If you're going to hedge a couple bets, the two safe teams to pick to Steve, Packers and Chiefs. I know that's kind of chalky. I know they're the one seeds, but they're the one seeds for a reason. A lot of these teams are faltering. I don't feel good about a lot of these other teams. The Steelers are one-dimensional. The Browns have nobody coaching them.
yeah,
The Bills are cute. I think that's where a lot of money is going to be because their odds are going to be the best probably for their buck. So I get it. Don't like the Saints, and I really don't like any NFC West teams. So no.
I think the
beautiful.
Packers' biggest threat is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yep.
And then Chiefs is going to be the Buffalo Bills. I think the Packers have an easier time with the Saints than they do the Buccaneers. So if they can get past that, I think their road to the Super Bowl it's not set in stone, but I think it feels a little bit better. So, hey, I'm going to switch sides. We're taking the Packers as a climb the pocket consensus right there, just because we were split and I didn't feel so comfortable with my pick. We're going to take the Packers winning the Super Bowl down in Tampa. Feels great. Super Bowl champions, the second one I've seen in my lifetime.
It feels great.
Yeah. Drop a comment below. Drop a comment below of kind of how you see the playoff picturing out, working out what teams do you think you're going to win against who. Or you don't have to get so detailed. Just put your Super Bowl champion. We're interested to see who you're picking. Like the video. We appreciate it. If you stuck around this whole time, man, you must be a fan because we're talking NFL football. We're talking fantasy football. We're going to be here all off season, and then soon it'll be fantasy football draft season if you're a fantasy player and checking this video out. We got that stuff all year long, so subscribe to the channel if you're new. We really appreciate the support. And good luck to your team if they're in the playoffs, man. I'm going to be watching. It feels good to be done with fantasy. Just watching my team play, rooting for them. Enjoy Wild Card Weekend. It's going to be a fun one. We got 6 good games on the slate. So, yeah, everyone stay safe. Just watching football. Peace out.